All right. Good morning, folks. Good morning here in Japan. Good evening everywhere else. Got my coffee and I'm ready to get to some sculpting. So today is one more stream on this Spire-Born character here. Hopefully the last one. I think by the end of today I should have a good pose set up for him and some final little details added in to get him ready for printing. So hopefully I might have a little bit more detail work to do after the stream, but hopefully by the end of this week I'll have my newest finished model. So last weekend also I wanted to talk a little bit about Shizuoka Hobby Show, which I went to last weekend. So this live stream has been really fun, but next time I'm thinking about doing something a little bit different, and partly because I was really inspired by what I saw at the hobby show. So while I was there, I got to meet the person responsible for these. You might have seen some of these dioramas on Instagram and things like that. And I got this book by Masaki-san. He goes into a lot of detail about his work, and I even got it signed. I don't know if you can see here. So seeing a lot of the work there at the hobby show, a lot of dioramas, I'm really excited to get to work on my own diorama, and I have picked up a little model kit while I was at the show that I think will work well for a little centerpiece for a Diluvian diorama. So I'm excited to get to that. So for that reason, so that I can start working on a new diorama, hopefully today I'm going to finish the Spire-Born figure. So let's see. I do have my coffee already as well. Okay. So specifically what needs to be done for today is to add in a little bit of sculpture detail for the armor panels and the weapon, and get him all posed up. To pose the character, you have to use a rig. I suppose you don't have to, but it's the easiest way. Over the last week or so, I spent a little bit of time getting the rig all set up. You might be able to see, actually, now that I'm looking at him, I wonder if this is the correct... Oh yeah, good. I also re-topologized this model, so I took all the pieces together, remeshed them into a single mesh, but then when you do that, you get some really wonky topology. Let me show you a little bit about what I mean here. So, for example, just take away that guy and put in his face mesh. If you do a basic remesh, you often get these little triangular polygons, which is bad for two reasons. One, it creates extra polygons, which you don't necessarily need, and it also sometimes causes weird, not glitches, but weird shapes when you are moving your model around. It won't move all at the same on the seam in the right way. So I took a little time and went through and made a re-topologized version, which you can see here. If you look down, you can see that the polygons on this model are all square, and they also flow a little bit better. Now, I did use a kind of automatic re-topology tool, so there are some things that if I was doing the re-topology by hand, I would do a little differently. example, these little poles here, these little points with more than 4 polygons attached. You usually want these kind of out of the way because they kind of mess with the shape when you are moving it. So for example, this pole here is kind of on the front of his shoulder, and I would rather it be more in the armpit where it's not seen as well. And also the face did get a kind of simple retopology where I would rather it have loops around the lips and the eyes. That's very doable if you have the time. And this time I just used a little automatic one. So it's not as good as it could be, but it is good enough. For most of today, I'll be, when sculpting, I'll try to have it look nice, but once I go into posing, it's always a little easier on your computer if you do it at a lower resolution. So you might be seeing a lot of squares on this guy today. All right. The other thing is, as you can see here, I do have him all rigged up. So none of the armor pieces are connected yet, but you should be able to see that if I go into pose mode. Oh yeah, as you can see, I'm on the high subdivision level, so it's a little chunky, a little clunky. But as you can see, he is all connected and his weapon is as well. I do a couple things. I've gotten into the habit of doing a couple things for my bones, for my rig, which I didn't want to get into on stream because they take a lot of time. But you can see there's this extra bone here, which you wouldn't have if you just used Rigify. That's for the weapon itself, so I can pose the weapon separately, but it still stays in his hand. And there's just a few little ways to make sure that you've got it in the right spot. But anyway, we'll get to that a little more in a second. So, let's add in some little details. To get started, I'm going to just add in detailed work on the chest, straps, and weapon, and shoes especially. That's what I'm focused on today. I tend to try to do as much detail as I can before posing because it's a little easier when everything is flat and laid out. So posing kind of tends to happen towards the end. I also want to do something with these pipes on his back here. Let's get started with this first one. Okay, so this is solidified. We're going to apply the solidify. We're going to add a multi-resolution modifier. As you can see with the base mesh, multi-resolutions or higher subdivision levels can cause it to be a little hard on your computer. So if you're working on that's kind of funky. I'm going to use my drawing tablet here. So I try and use multi-resolution modifiers as much as possible to make it so that I can add the higher details in. It's kind of weird. I don't know why it's got that shading on it. I'm using the smooth brush here and just smoothing out the front of these panels. But this is meant to be some kind of hammered rusty metal, so I'm okay with it getting a little rough around the edges. But what I don't want to do is keep that lip. I don't know what that is. Rough hammered metal so far. For this one, this is meant to be a little more angular, but I still want to add some little rough edges to it. So I'm going to do a couple things. One, I'm going to bevel this edge here. All those edges, Control B to add bevel, and let's solidify it. Just select that whole front side there and unselect those. There we go. So I've got that whole outer edge selected. Control B and add a quick bevel. Nice. Okay. And I'm going to select the inner one here and do the same. Now, the bevel here, when you add it, if you add it too early, it makes getting the shape correct a little more difficult. There we go. Actually, I think that kind of looks nice as is, but let's add in a multi-resolution modifier and see what happens when I subdivide it. So if I just subdivide normally, it tends to round things out, and that might be a little too much. So if I simple subdivide, I'm going to do that one more time. keeps everything where it was originally, but it still adds in extra polygons. So from there, for example, if I want to smooth out these edges here, to make these a little softer, without moving that a little shape. There we go. Nice, nice, nice. And as you can see, I've got this little like dent. This isn't going to show up very well on a print, but see, I add a little dent or two here, and could even add a little scratch. There we go. Yeah, this is not as detailed as I was assuming. I'm going to add another subdivision level here. We're going to go a little harder. Sometimes the crease tool gets a little sharper edge, and I can increase that little gash. Okay, just a little divot. It might not be deep enough to show up on a print, but it'll be good for now. Oops. I do have to figure out a solution for that. Okay. From here, let's take a look at our next big piece. The straps, I have a process that I go through to make them. So that's kind of, in my head, it's already finished. The straps, I know exactly what to do. These other armor panels kind of depends on each one. These, let's try it out. Take this, I'm going to solidify my resolution modifier. Before we do that, bevel the edges. There we go. Actually, might as well bevel the underside as well. Okay. Do here. Just add some little irregularity to the edges. one thing about using multi-resolution modifier you can probably see right now is this is the lower subdivision level when I'm moving around, and you can see the higher subdivision level, and they don't match very closely. So what you do at one subdivision level, actually you can adjust how it affects higher levels, but generally speaking, just be careful about doing all of your work at a higher subdivision level, and then you get into the lower subdivision levels and it doesn't match very well at all and can cause some confusion. Anyway, I think that's fine. Just adding in a little bit of detail there. Okay, cool. And pop back out, pop back in, do the same thing. A little bit of a bevel. Solidify first, solidify. Out, add in our multi-resolution. Simple. And sculpting. There we go. I think I've said on stream, and I've definitely said it in videos before, but this process of like adding in these little details, this is when it's really important to keep in mind that on the computer you're working at this like really high zoomed in detailed scale, but on the tabletop it's really not going to matter that much. Especially for these little arm panels, I'm just wanting to get this shape to match a little bit better and to show that it's not you're gonna be seeing it at like this size. So things like that little rounded edge are important. One more to go. Details are so probably just use the mouse. Let's get something that matches the shape of the hand a little better. Nice. Okay. There we go. So I think that's most of the armor panels done. From there, the next thing to take a look at, I think it's probably about time to work on some straps. So we'll start with this because it's the clearest, most obvious example of what to do here. Now for the armor panels, I kind of want to keep a little bit of that square look. So when I'm adding a multi-resolution modifier, I'm using the simple button, which adds in the polygons but doesn't normalize everything and round it off. But for the straps, I want that little bit of rounding. Sounds a little loud. There we go. Hopefully that works okay. Clinton? Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. There we go. So for straps like this, I generally want that rounding effect. But if I just add a multi-resolution modifier and I just subdivide it round, it's also going to round off the edges, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do in here is add in some edge loops right along the edges there. Actually, this one is really simple. But this is easy to miss. I also want to add it on the inside. So now, when I go to add my subdivide, it'll keep that shape much better, but round off the surface instead of just the edges. And since I added it to the inside, it doesn't round under all the way. Okay, from there, you can go into sculpt mode and move it around. Better? Good. I can't tell how loud it is because for me it's just on my headphones. Also for these straps, I just move things around, push it, try and do a little bit of random. Perfect. Thank you, Julie. Just be careful not to get the underlying mesh to show through. You'll see that doesn't necessarily have to match completely yet because it's not posed yet. So generally speaking, after posing, I do need to go back through and fine-tune some of these as well. There we go, so we're just going to do kind of the same thing for all these straps. Add an edge loop, add an edge loop. Now this one, since it's not connected, it's going to go under as well, so I don't have to worry about that. But I do have to worry about the tip here. So if I want that to end in a square, I need to add a little edge loop there. There we go. Nice and fast. Multi-resolution modifier. Subdivide, subdivide. There you go. Looks much more strap-like. Now this one, I'm trying to get it to fit into this loop, or look like it fits into the loop. So I do want to adjust that a little bit. And this is why in my last stream, when I added these little loops here, I wasn't too concerned with it matching perfectly, because I knew that I was going to be doing some of this. So at this point, I can kind of adjust that in there. Get it looking nice. There we go. Also, when doing this kind of sculpting work, it's a good habit to get into of like zooming out for larger motions and then zooming in for fine-tune motions. There we go. Again, I'm adding in the detail, but not too perfect yet. There we go, one more time. Apply. Edge loops. Boom, boom. And multi-resolution. Boom, boom. Go. This one I have the loop on the front as well to make that look nice and bunched up in there. There we go. The little edge on there, one thing I've heard from miniature painters as well, is adding that little edge bevel is much easier for getting yourself some edge highlights when painting. So if I was trying to paint this just with that hard 90-degree corner, there's nothing for the like paint to sit on when you are doing something like edge highlighting. So in general, I want to bevel pretty much all of those hard edges as much as possible. Okie doke. Multi-resolution. Subdivide. This one I'm just going to leave as is for now because I know it's going to get quite messy once I pose it. Oh, didn't mean to put it there. And multi-resolution. Subdivide. There we go. Okay, those straps are looking much more strap-like. can do the same thing for here, but first let's take a look at this belt. So the belt, I have to be a little extra careful because I want this middle piece to have harder edges, and I want the belt itself to be a little more rounded. Oh, also it's mirrored. I want to apply the mirror there. So for this one, I'm going to spend a little more time to make sure that this has hard edges on it. We're going to do the same as before with our edge loops there. And we're going to add some edge loops here to make sure that this surface doesn't round off into the belt. We're also going to add a loop here. There we go. I think that's pretty good. This is a full loop, so I want to make sure that there's an edge loop on the inside as well. There we go. And I'm going to add one to the back so it doesn't flatten out back there. Now for the inside here, add that one, add that one, and add some to the sides. And we're going to add one here as well. Okay, let's see how that goes. Okay, so see, this is nice and hard, but this curve I forgot to take care of. So let's do that right now. So that comes from there being no extra loops here. Add one there, there, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side, just to make that extra sharp. Okay, try that again. Nice. There we go. Got some kind of hard edges and a nice round belt. Now I do have to be careful when sculpting on that. I don't want to lose all that detail. Oh man. Is that a really good idea for this belt buckle, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it on stream. I think it would be really nice to add in a little embossed shape, but I won't be able to prepare that right now. Okay, let's shape this belt. Similar, just kind of roughing it up a little. I'm also kind of, since there should be an angle here on this belt, I'm also trying to add that a little bit. Although that's gonna have to be adjusted also once it's posed. There we go. Lay that out a little bit. Nice, nice, nice. Nice, nice, nice. So excuse me one sec. I'll sneeze. Ah! Okay, I think that's good. Now, next thing to work on, we do have a few more little straps here on the arm and the weapon itself. And the shoes. Let's take a look at the shoes. I'm still like not really sure what I want to do with these exactly. So this is a good opportunity to kind of play around with the sculpt tool. Because I know that I want it to be like rough metal plates, but that's about it. We're gonna add these loops here to make sure it stays nice and straight. And we're gonna add loops here and here for the same reason. And add loops on the straps. Now, the straps I want to be more round than the plate here, the base. Let's scale that in a little bit. Let's give it a little separation. I love that I've listened to this Carl Casey soundtrack so many times, recognizing the beats when they come up. Okay. Add edge loops. I think that should be good. Now here, since I'm mirroring across the origin, I don't care about the mirror so much. Let's see how you do. Not bad. It's kind of simple. Let's select. Select. Let's see what happens when I shrink all of that down. Ooh, yeah, I like that much better. Okie doke. Now here, I wanted to make this a little clearer, so I'm going to do the draw tool and hold Control to push in instead of pulling out. There we go. And again, this is going to be seen from really far away, so I just want to make sure there's a little dent there to catch a little shadow to show that these are separate pieces, even though they're not. There we go. There we go, I think that's pretty good. And then let's add in some little dents and divots onto the shoes themselves. There we go. Doot, doot. Trying to avoid concentration face. Just it's not a flattering look, but it is my like default state while doing these kinds of little menial sculpting tasks. Okie dokie. Okay, just a little bit there. Okie doke. That's good for now, And I think it's just about time to get into the weapon. So the weapon I have prepared a little bit. I cleared the mirror already and I added in these extra little loops. Especially when you have like a long thing like this, if you just subdivide it, it's going to turn into a bunch of thin little strips of polygons, which does not look good when it comes time to actually sculpt. So I kind of evened everything out a little bit. And there's one more thing which I want to do before I actually get into sculpting, which is to select one of these little parts here and just move it up a little, show a little dent. And I'm going to take one of these parts as well. And just cause a little dent there, and actually that one can probably be fixed in general. Let's move that back up here, and let's move that a little more along the line. There we go. You can see I already did a little bit of that here. There you go, just make that piece look a little more roughed up. Okay. Good. I like that. From here, we're going to do the same process. We're going to multi-resolution. And this time, we do want to keep those hard edges, so we are going to simple subdivide. Oh, one more important step. Hit Control A to apply the scale. I should have done that before multi-resolution. Okay, make sure to apply the scale before applying your multi-resolution modifier. There we go. Now we've got that nice round circle. Oftentimes, if you're having trouble with sculpting or with something lining up correctly, that's why. Okay. I'm going to start on the back here because I want to just round this out a little. Go. Now this already has a nice long bevel all along it. I'm going to kind of soften out this area near where he holds it. And if I have small enough polygons, I don't think I do. Let's subdivide one more time, actually 2 more times. This level of subdivision is definitely going to cause problems when posing it, but that's why I use multi-resolution modifier, so I can go back and do it a little differently. So now you can see my resolution here is much finer. That means I can go to my clay strips and add in some little grip tape. This probably looks a little funky right now. There you go. The nice thing about clay strips here is it adds these nice flat strips of material, as the name kind of suggests. Oh, that's not lined up at all. Ah, it's looking funky. And then I can go to the crease brush I'm not sure how I like that. From far away, it looks okay. That's what matters. I'm gonna crease up this edge here. Ah. Let's do a little bit of work with the draw tool as well. This is kind of funky. I don't know if this is working. Okay, might have to fix that up off stream. We'll see. But here, let's take a look. The blade itself, I want to keep mostly even, but we're going to add a little bit to these parts here. Make sure that these divots are not evenly spaced, and actually I'm going to pop down a level or two when I do this. There we go. Soften off these little edges. Just a little bit. Also, you can see just in the sculpt mode in general, adding that little bevel there just automatically makes that shape easier to see. Okay. A little uneven. Soften that out a little. There we go. And we're going to round this out a little bit as well. Okay. Can always touch up some of those details later. All right. Okay. That's not bad. What do we have to do right now? I do want to start working on some posing. But I do think this is a good point to take a quick little break. It's been about an hour, but I'll be back to pose up the model. Be right back. Coffee. All right, and we're back. So now it's time to pose everything up. At least try to get a nice looking little pose here. So to do that, first we have to make sure that everything is attached. Oh, you know what? Let me take care of this little flap here really quickly. That's just going to be solidify. Make sure it's nice and thick. This one we are going to add some loop cuts. Close to the edge there. And we're gonna do like 3. Let's do 4. And we're gonna get a nice loop towards the edge and a nice loop towards the edge. Multi-resolution modifier. You know what? We should have one on the sides as well. Subdivide, subdivide. Boom, boom, boom. And we're just going to play around with that a little bit. Now this is one where I'm definitely going to want to adjust it based on the pose at the end. So I'm really not too worried about the overall shape here. I just want to give it a little bit of cloth-like form. And add in some folds. There we go. Just enough. Just enough to sell that as cloth. You know what I want to do? I do want to make sure it sticks out a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right, looking good. So let's talk about rigging and posing. So first, I already have my rig set up, as I mentioned earlier. Just if you're unfamiliar with it, you basically start with a rig like this with bones. And in Blender, one of the features they've added is this meta rig, which you can just add like a regular object under armature, human meta rig. And at some point I'll probably get into the details of it, but I'm not super comfortable with it yet, so I'll probably wait until I'm a little better at rigging before I cover it as like a tutorial. But the basics are you put the bones where the bones should be, like regular people bones, and you can then, if you're on the meta rig, you can generate a rig from it. The rig that's generated is this rig here, which includes these convenient little markers for where things go. And this is the rig that things actually get attached to. So this meta rig is mostly just for the bones themselves. The bones are here, you just can't see them currently because of these settings here. But now that we have this rig, we want to attach things to the rig. To do that, you can do it manually, but there's a much easier way, which is to generate automatic weights. Let's start with this panel because I think it's the clearest and simplest. So we're going to select this one, and then holding shift, select the rig itself. We're going to go up to parent with automatic weights. Okay, now it doesn't look like anything's changed. Let me really quickly go down subdivision levels so that this doesn't hurt my computer. I'm just going to kind of do this for everything. Not that it's fully necessary for some of these, but it will help a lot. All right, I think that's good. Okay, so now if I click on the rig, with the rig selected, I can go up here to pose mode. And from there, I can move things around. You'll see right now, I have already attached the weapon to his hand, so that's following, but the armband is not. However, I just attached this little chest piece, so if I move the chest, it's going to move around as well. Cool, cool. Woo! Every single time, it never doesn't crack me up. Making him do a little dance. Okay. So we're gonna just do the same thing here. Generate automatic weights. Put automatic weights. Automatic weights. You can probably see I can also do this with Control P. Wow, that kind of hurts my hand. I should use the other control. Here as well. Control P, automatic weights. Nope. Control P, automatic weights. Boop, boop. And did I get everything? Now, for any objects that go over multiple bones, like these pants here, the automatic weights are just going to add a weight paint to the closest bone, essentially. So, for example, using the weapon, I don't use automatic weights for this because, well, it would just move the middle of his hand, basically. And some parts would move with a pinky, and it gets all wonky. So, for things that you want to stay consistent and move all together, we don't want to use automatic weights. But for things like cloth, and for parts that are attached to a single bone, it's okay to use. This part, like for example the mask, is probably not going to deform very much because it's attached just to the head bone, so it'll follow around like so. If you want to check your weights, you can click up here and go into weight paint. Now you can see that this is all blue, and that's because blue is essentially 0. And so if you look at the bones, you'll see it is not at all attached to the palm of his hand. It's not attached to his shin. But when we go through the spines, you see a little bit of blue, a little bit of orange. So that means orange, so red is fully attached, blue is 0, like 0. So you'll see it's a little bit attached to 5. I don't know actually if I like that. Let's see. So we're gonna go here and we're gonna pose. Moves this around, mask follows him around pretty well. That works pretty well. Better yet, a little head bob. Sick. All right. So, let's see, what hasn't been attached yet? I think these arm pieces haven't been attached. and these back pieces haven't been attached. Okay, so let's take care of that. Go back into object mode. Parent with automatic weights. Parent with automatic weights. Bum, 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 bum. These back pieces, by the way, I will go over how to add details to those as well if I have time today. But that can come later. These guys. These guys. And for the straps as well. I probably could group select these and do that as well, but just to make sure that everything works. Okay, let's go back into pose mode. Is there anything? Oh, the box moves the whole guy. So, yeah, the pipes aren't quite working. Kind of makes sense actually, because they are. We'll deal with those later. The pipes are not meshes, so this isn't going to work properly for them. Okay. Now, this is a little bit chaotic to look at, but how I approach posing here is just try to think of something natural, semi in motion for a miniature. So I don't want him to just stand there. My first miniature was like that. It does look a little boring. I want him to have some action. So the first thing is thinking about his weapon. What is he doing with the weapon currently? What action is he taking? Is he like slashing? Is he stabbing? Is he just like charging? Since this is a two-handed weapon, I kind of want to show that. My two-handed weapon miniatures so far haven't really done that very well. So one of my goals for this character was to make sure that I showed him using a two-handed weapon. So what I think I'm going to do is either making him do like an overhand cut or like a stab. And I think that overhand cut probably looks the best. So let's try it out. This is the beauty of working in CG instead of sculpting in meat space, is that I can just try out a different pose. So if he's got the backswing like this, then that means his left leg is going to be forward. He's going to be slightly rotated back, elbow up, ready to come down. So we're going to take his hip first, start from the core as much as possible, and we're going to rotate that hip around. We're going to take his foot, move that forward, rotate as well. Take the other foot, move that back, and rotate. Give him a nice little side. We're actually going to put it back a little and rotate it even a little more. There we go. Now we're actually going to take this whole square and put it down. Gives him a little bit of that bent knee. Now these arrows are a little confusing to use, I found, but basically instead of rotating the leg around, we're just rotating it around this way, around the hip. So we're going to rotate that so that his knee is a little more in line there, and here as well. Rotate it so that his knee is a little more front facing. Okay. Actually, we're going to change his foot to be a little more front as well. Okay, there's his stance. Now also his chest needs to be rotated for this like kind of backswing. There we go. And finally, we're going to move the arms into position. Now, the hands can be a little tricky to get where you want them. Keep in mind that like whatever view you have is the axis of rotation. So if I view here, then I'm going to be moving it that way. And also just like the legs, these arm joints kind of work in a similar way. Before I finalize where that pose is going to be, I'm going to move his hands. Oh, come on. No. You can see what I was talking about earlier. You can see, it doesn't help the point. You can see that some part of the weapon, oh man, that's annoying. Some part of the weapon has been attached to the other hand, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to go in and fix that, but that's a bit time consuming, so I don't have to do it on stream. Ooh. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna try to make this into a overhand. Swing. And the reason I add this extra bone is so that I can adjust the grip without adjusting the hand. There we go. I'm gonna rotate that a little bit more. And we're gonna put his hand up here. B. Oh no, what was I about to say? Be a little careful with. Yeah, be careful how far you can change the settings. I haven't done it for this one. Currently, when you pull, you're just going to stretch out his arm. So be careful that you're not pulling on his limbs too much. We don't want Stretch Armstrong. That was his name. That was a throwback. Unless you want Stretch Armstrong. If you want Stretch Armstrong, go for it. I won't hold you back. Just gonna get some nice leverage on the blade here. Okay. Now his whole body is going to be tilted forward a little bit, which might adjust what I'm doing. Yeah. This is, for me, the hardest part about posing is getting these fine little details. I really have to like picture myself in that pose. For example, this looks a little, he doesn't look very, there's not a lot of energy in his pose right now. Let's get him a little more crouched. And then I think we're just gonna select both of these and pull down his hands a little bit. Yeah, that's the problem, I thought so. Okay, so moving them around kind of works well together, but rotating them does not. Yeah, you know what? I want him to be like more like charging. And to do that, get his little okay, I'll stop. So I've been rotating his chest, but let's get him more like leaned into it. There we go. Sometimes his arm gets all twisted up, and usually it's because this bone needs to be rotated a little more. I think I leaned him too far forward. Okay, there's that. There we go, that's nice and lined up there. I'm gonna rotate this arm as well. I think I want it more down. Okay. We can make this more of like a running pose. Doing something a little more like that. There we go. want to make sure to leave some space between his head and his weapon. Otherwise it could get a little messy in the actual printer. There, I think that might be what I want. As long as I can get his elbow to do what I want. There we go. Definitely want his elbow out. These little gear ones are my least favorite little tools. They're the most confusing. Okay. I think we can just make that final adjustment just with the weapon itself. Okay, there we go. I like that overall pose. Kind of looks like he's moving forward at least. Now, annoying thing from here is to get his hands right. This is probably one of the more tedious parts. The nice thing is that once you have it done on a pose, if you're doing like multiple weapons and things like that, then you don't have to really do it again, but it can be a bit challenging. Okay, so to get his hand to wrap around, you know what, for these bones here, I want to shouldn't be showing in front. Okay, these bones, I want first start with his finger here. We're just going to rotate it. Be careful though that you're not rotating, you're not splaying out his fingers too much. And then from there we just go joint by joint. This is where you really got to be a little more careful. And since this is getting this ready for printing, okay, really got to fix the weight painting on this glaive. It's getting all kinds of messed up. Okay, since we want this to be 3D printed, we do want to make sure that there is this overlap. Actually, that's pretty good. There's also this bone here, which we can move. That's this motion. we're gonna do a little basic here. Pop, pop, pop. And pinky time. Oh, that's gonna be annoying. I'm gonna have to come at it from the other side here. Yeah, there we go, we can see through. Ah, here we go. Okay, so because of the angle being a little off, I have to rotate on the other side here. Here as well. Let's rotate that back. Okay. For a rough pass, I think that grip works pretty well. And we're just going to do the same here. There's part of me that wants him to kind of leave his fingers open like that. Mostly because it's less work, but also because it does kind of have that like ready to move your hand look to it. But we should at least make sure that his palm is in the right spot. Okay. This thumb here is going to need to come over. Okay. One little trick, it's certainly not perfect, but kind of helps, is when you're moving these little rings, try to make sure that they are lined up with themselves, so they look like a line. That will help you avoid getting that unnecessary rotation. But like I said, it's still not easy. Okay, finger placement. Here's a good opportunity to adjust that bone there. I don't want him holding T, so I don't want his pinky out. A little shaka. Okay, now you can see his fingers are a little wonky, splayed out here, so let's fix that. Let's get all of these guys generally moving in. And his pinky as well. You can also move these bones if they're really not cooperating, but just be careful with that. Okay. I can finally not see all that color. Okay, there we go. You know what? I'm gonna fix his knee a little bit. Just get a little more head on. And a little more to the side. Yeah. Good, good. Okay. Now the last thing I want to show before I get going here. Well, okay. Let's take care of this. So, if you start getting this problem, especially after using automatic weights, we're going to go up to weight paint mode. And you can see that it is almost entirely red for weapon R, the right hand weapon, which is what I want. But just because it's red on one point doesn't mean that it's not red on another as well. So I know two things. One, I know that it's attached a little bit to something on the left side, although I'm not sure exactly what. And it's attached a little bit to some of the fingers, I think. So we're just gonna look through here. Very, very hard to tell. Not seeing it. Okay. Gotta go into I might actually, let me see if I can I just delete these? I don't know. I'm learning things as we go, obviously. Okay, I'm just gonna delete those. And there we go. Solve that problem. Nice. All right, with that kind of out of the way, so that was one of the things I wanted to show you. Since I solved that quicker than I thought I was going to, we're going to take a look at the other thing. Here's a good example, is the pouch. Now, I don't really want to do this yet, so I'm just going to save, and I'm going to undo this afterwards. But for example, the pouch or these guys, I'm sure there is another way to do this. You know what? I want this to be mostly on the palm, or mostly on the spine. So right now it gets kind of morphed because it's being pulled by multiple separate bones. And there's two things you can do. One, you can remove it from the weight paint and just place it where you want to, and that'll keep it nice and straight. But if I want to do any other poses in the future, that means I'll have to undo that step. Since I just discovered this little tool, let's see what happens when I remove that. Let me be better about this. We want to take a look at our bones, and we want this to basically attach to this bone here. Which is spine 2. Oh, I totally forgot to show you this. So if you ever want to go back to working regularly, you can under the rig, you can go down to this little button here and press rest position. Ooh. That should have worked. There we go. Gotta select it. Okay, good. It's freaking out for a second. So you can just go back to rest position and then pose position, rest position, if you want to keep working on anything in a flat place. So we're going to take a look at this meta rig here, and I want this piece to be attached to this bone here, which is spine 3. Bone, spine 3. Okay, so I want it to follow spine 3 completely. So we're going to take this object mode, and we're just going to remove spine 2. Can I... Nope, I'm gonna have to do from here, huh? There might be a better way to do this, but I don't know it yet. That is the theme of my work in Blender. There is almost certainly a better way to do it, but I don't know. Pose position. Okay, it still deforms it a little bit. Because I know why. Because it's not fully weight painted to it. So weights normalize all, I believe. And we want to whoops. One way we can do this is just, this is what I was expecting to do for the glaive. Obviously, this is not the most efficient way to do this. You know what? I am just going to remove it, and I'm going to add it's gonna work. I'm not gonna do that. Ah! This is why I haven't wanted to do this on stream in a while. Weight painting and posing is not too difficult, but weight painting and rigging is still there's just a lot of stuff that I'm not super familiar with. Okay, let's see if that's changed anything. Not really. Okay. All right, last thing I'm going to show everyone before I finish, if this isn't working, which it isn't for me. The pouch is another good example. Actually, a very good example. If that's not working and you're ready to just pose and print your model, what I usually do is just clear and keep transformation, or at least clear parent. For something like this pouch, it might be better to just move it into position. Boom, done. Not very hard. Now, if you're going to do multiple poses and you want to keep that pouch in all of the different poses, you either do that every time or go through the other process of making sure that it's weight painted completely to one bone so that it doesn't deform or move into a weird spot. Now the other thing, and something I'm not gonna quite get into fully today, but I will take care of before this gets all printed out, is I'm sure there's a way to do this better than I'm doing it right now, but pretty much I always get some little artifacts from the posing. And so the posing gets everything in the right spot, but the musculature, there's little seams and gaps, doesn't really look great. So the final step before actually printing for each pose is to go back through and add some sculpting detail for that specific pose. So if my arm's like here, my biceps are obviously much more pronounced than if my arm is straight out. So changing that a little bit takes that sculpt kind of to the next level. Like here, this is way too much of a bulge for that position, but it would work really well for this position. So I want to kind of adjust those muscles to match. However, once you do that, and once you've adjusted all of your little gear pieces to be in the right spot, I can also go back and show you, like, the reason I like multi-resolution modifier is that I can just put everything back to high detail. And as long as I'm not moving the pose at all, it doesn't matter too much on my computer. And so I can just pop all of it back. And then if everything is overlapped and everything is in the right position, I just export as STL. And it should be good. So I think that's pretty much all of the streaming time I'm going to give to this one figure. So off camera, I'll clean it up and print it out and show you all later. So if anyone is interested in seeing that process, let me know. It's not very long, and it's not really worth a whole live stream to just support and print. You don't want to just watch my printer going. But it is kind of interesting to see the steps. However, probably I'll just move on to painting and basing this guy and getting him ready for the tabletop. Once I have that, then we'll see. I might move on to a little diorama. So I think that's it for today. So thank you for watching. Thank you for bearing with me as I pose and deal with weight painting. And yeah, we're almost finished with this guy, so I'm excited. All right, everyone. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Peace.